Songs advocating the genocide of the South African people are not only being sung, they're being acted out in the blood and genocide of thousands of white South Africans. Here's a quote directly from the BBC. There have been more than 3,000 murders of Afrikaner farmers. It goes on, Afrikaner farmers have objected to ANC Youth League chief Julius Malema singing "Kill the Boer." They say the constant refrain of the song incites people to kill white farmers. The ANC and Julius Malema have defended the song. A detailed study of these crimes by Nedbank revealed that, quote, robbery was not the prime motivation. In fact, in 85% of last year's farm attacks, nothing had been stolen. The murder rate for white farmers is the highest of any group in the entire world, and it's not just farmers who are victims. An estimated 35,000 non-farm whites have been murdered on the roads and in their homes and businesses across South Africa. But perhaps the most shocking thing is that many of you watching this know nothing about it, but that changes right now. Hello, this is David Duke. What I present here will challenge everything you've heard and think you know about South Africa. Even for those of you awake to the lies of the media, the ongoing genocide of white people in South Africa will deeply shock you. For those whose eyes are not yet open, I pray that the facts of this genocide will somehow touch your heart. You will find out if you truly respect and honor human rights and human life, or whether you're so racist that you disregard human rights when Europeans are victims. There is a horrific, purposeful genocide going on right at this moment against white South Africans. Here's a short news clip of Dr. Gregory Stanton, the head of Genocide Watch.
Dr. Gregory H. Stanton is a retired American professor of law who heads Genocide Watch, the organization that coordinates the international campaign to end genocide.
It seems to me a very troubling statistic that the murder rate of the farmers, Boer farmers, is about 4 times as high as it is for the rest of the population. There is a motive of hatred, that these are hate crimes, that people are tortured, that they're murdered in ways that are dehumanizing.
Not only does Stanton believe farm murders are hate crimes, but he has also recently warned the world that the white farmers in South Africa could be facing genocide.
Now, these are not just numbers on paper. These are real people with real families with human feelings.
A mother's hand on her daughter's coffin. And a teenage boy crying out for his mother. Overwhelmed by emotion, a family member faints at the graveside. In just 7 days, South African farming communities have buried yet another 3 victims of murder. Elsie Swart was killed shortly after her 50th birthday. I feel bitter. She was severely tortured, say her parents. Burned with an electric iron, beaten and then strangled to death. The cops here have long lost count of the murders they have attended on farms in this province. What awaits them on a call-out is usually a scene of indescribable brutality. Like so many other victims, this elderly couple arrived back home from church on a Sunday morning. In a macabre display, the killers left their Bibles displayed on the bodies. In an outside room, a 3rd member of the family was tied up with wire, then tortured and killed. Scenes like these are difficult to forget, and to deal with the trauma, even the most hardened policemen often need psychiatric counseling. An old man's hand resting on the arm of his wife of many years. She raped, police say probably while he was forced to watch. Finally, with their throats slit, they died next to each other.
Here are calls for white murder along with worship of their genocidal inspiration, Joe Slovo. Who is Joe Slovo? Interestingly, both Joe Slovo and Menachem Begin lived in the same region of Eastern Europe where Jews were imbued with deep fear and hatred of Christian Europeans. One ended up in Israel terrorizing Christians and Muslim Palestinians. The other ended up in South Africa terrorizing European Christians there. Here he is with his followers Winnie and Nelson Mandela beneath a symbol of communism. Few people in the West even know that Mandela supported terrorist bombings of innocent men, women, and children. Here's the Mandela they don't let you see in the controlled media. Here's the media version of Mandela that they show you.
Mr. Mandela, can you tell us how you feel visiting this spot at this time?
It is a very emotional moment for us, for peace, for love among South Africans.
He sings "Kill the White People" in his language and then tells us in English how devoted he is to peace and love, and the media covers it up. And take a look at Mandela's wife, Winnie. Now, Winnie likes to burn people alive with tires and gasoline. She said, quote, "With our boxes of matches and our necklaces, we shall liberate this country." The truth is that white South Africans have nothing to be ashamed about. The Boers created a great nation, one so good for blacks that millions came for the jobs, education, medical care that the whites had created. Before the ANC takeover, only 5% were unemployed. Now it's over 50%. Before the ANC, it was once a safe country for both whites and blacks, and now it's the murder and rape capital of the world. Most African nations are dominated by the ethnic murder and repression of tribalism. They are rife with murder, corruption, dictatorship. The conditions for the black people in those nations are horrendous. They are far less free than they ever were in the old South Africa. Why was South Africa so demonized by the media? The very same year that apartheid fell, the Hutus in Rwanda killed 800,000 Tutsis in horrific genocide. Black ethnic genocides happened in the Congo, Somalia, Ethiopia, Chad, Zimbabwe, Angola, Liberia, Botswana, Mali, Mozambique. I could go on and on. But media coverage of Africa was nothing but a hate fest against the best, safest, and freest nation in all of Africa. In fact, of all the tribes in Africa, South Africa was led by the most benevolent tribe of all. Nowhere in Africa did blacks live better or more free than in South Africa. It is really quite insane. The media shows you old pictures of different ethnic bathrooms in white South Africa as proof of its evil. This while thousands of whites are now being tortured and murdered. I don't think there is any moral comparison between separate bathrooms and genocide. I tell you the real evil. It's the evil media that supported the overthrow of South Africa to a bunch of communist terrorists who even sing songs of genocide and murder. The true racists and haters now have South Africa in their clutches, and God help both the white South Africans and the black South Africans who are now on a highway to hell. South Africa is heading toward the same corrupt and murderous tribalism and genocide as the rest of Africa. If you really care anything about human rights, raise your voice against this genocide of South African white people. The world must demand an end to this ongoing genocide. This is a test for all you folks out there who say you really believe in human rights. If you don't believe in human rights for white people too, then you don't believe in human rights at all. Together, we must save these victims of ongoing genocide before it is too late.
One of the bullets came straight through the back window where Emily was sitting, and just in a single moment your whole life changes. Look at their future in this country and say, could have been my child. Do we sit and wait until it's too late?